very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. And I rise to send my condolences to the family of President Mwai Kibaki and also to the people of Kenya on my own behalf and the people of Kiharu. Mr. Speaker, we learn a lot from the life of President Mwai Kibaki. First, I want to thank the people of Odaya for entrusting a young person to the position of leadership in terms of their MP, Mr. Speaker. President Mwai Kibaki assumed the role of CEO of KANU at the age of 31, went ahead to become an MP at 32, and served for 50 uninterrupted years as a member of parliament. And it is through that incubation of ascending to a position of leadership early that he was able to refine himself, of course through experience, to become the kind of leader, a towering leader, that he became when he assumed the presidency of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I remember President Mwai Kibaki for the free primary education, and I remember when he was campaigning, his competitor then actually told the nation that it was impossible to offer free basic education. But President Mwai Kibaki went ahead to prove them wrong when he, of course, gave the people of Kenya an opportunity to go to school without paying. Also, most of us, Mr. Speaker, went to universities and got places in various universities, courtesy of the policies of President Mwai Kibaki for opening up space in our private public universities, Mr. Speaker, which previously were hedged on bed capacity, and also opened up the economy to be able to absorb capital from private sector for establishment of private institutions. But Mr. Speaker, I also want to remember President Kibaki more in regards to the economy. Across all dimensions of the economy, President Mwai Kibaki's legacy, Mr. Speaker, is towering. He got an economy that had revenues of around 200 billion Kenya shillings. By the time he left after 10 years, he had uplifted that revenue by 500% to 1 trillion Kenya shillings. The current regime under President Uhuru Kenyatta has only managed to move that revenue from 1 trillion to around 1.6 trillion, which is hardly 60%. Work that Kibaki did in half a year has taken the current regime an entire 10 years to achieve. President Mwai Kibaki got our country and our economy at a point where the total debt was around 600 billion Kenya shillings. Mr. Speaker, he left us with a debt of 1.8 trillion Kenya shillings, borrowing a net of 1.2 trillion Kenya shillings in a span of 10 years. But Mr. Speaker, contrasting with this regime, that debt from 1.8, we have actually surpassed even the limits we have set in this House. If you add even the guarantees, now the total debt is going towards 12 trillion. Mr. Speaker, also, economically speaking, President Mwai Kibaki left our country when the poverty level was around 39%. Mr. Speaker, as we talk now, Kenyans who face multidimensional poverty are just around 63%. Two-thirds of Kenyans' households, Mr. Speaker, are living in one way or the other in poverty. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, the country that President Kibaki left that was booming has, of course, descended into poverty. On the other sector, Mr. Speaker, which is more visible, President Mwai Kibaki gave a very good environment for our private sector to thrive. Mr. Speaker, most of the banks and most of the companies in the private sector that we are very proud of as Kenyans, and categorically like Equity Bank, like Family Bank, like many other financial institutions around insurance, Mr. Speaker, they got their operating license during President Kibaki's time. All this, Mr. Speaker, he never managed, Mr. Speaker, to ask for any stakes from these companies. And Mr. Speaker, because I see almost my time is up, among the many qualities we can learn from President Mwai Kibaki is that it is important for leaders not to be conflicted when they are leading. President Mwai Kibaki never did business with government when he was president of Kenya. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that it is actually criminal for this regime to every time keep on comparing their performance with that of President Mwai Kibaki. It is an insult, Mr. Speaker, to his legacy. There is no comparison. We can only contrast. And lastly, the selflessness. President Mwai Kibaki never named any street on his name. Actually, when people approached him to name Thika Road Superhighway on his name,